Patrice Lumumba. The name alone evokes a sense of hope, of defiance, and of a relentless struggle for justice. Born on July 2, 1925, in the village of Onalua in the Belgian Congo, Lumumba's early life was marked by the harsh realities of colonial rule. Yet, from these humble beginnings, he rose to become a beacon of resistance against oppression. His journey was one of profound transformation, from a postal clerk to a revolutionary leader whose life was tragically cut short. The mourning crowds that gathered at his funeral were a testament to the deep impact he had on his people. Lumumba stands as a towering figure in African history. His speeches, filled with fervor and conviction, rallied the masses and ignited a fervent desire for independence. He was not just a leader, he was a visionary who saw beyond the immediate struggles to a future where Congo could stand proud and free. He was a man who dared to challenge the established world order. In a time when colonial powers still held sway over much of Africa, Lumumba's bold stance was both inspiring and dangerous. He navigated the treacherous waters of international politics with a clarity of purpose that few could match. A man who envisioned a Congo, and indeed an Africa, free from the shackles of colonialism. His dream was not just for political independence but for economic and social liberation. He believed in the potential of his people and worked tirelessly to uplift them. His life, though tragically brief, left an indelible mark on the conscience of the world. Lumumba's assassination on January 17, 1961, was a stark reminder of the lengths to which those in power would go to silence a voice of dissent. Yet his legacy endures, a testament to his unwavering spirit. Lumumba, more than just a politician, became a symbol. He embodied the aspirations of a continent yearning for liberty and self-determination. His passion and dedication resonated far beyond the borders of Congo, inspiring movements for freedom across Africa. He embodied the aspirations of a continent yearning for liberty and self-determination. The celebrations that erupted across Africa during the wave of independence movements were, in many ways, a reflection of Lumumba's vision. He saw a united Africa, strong and self-reliant. Lumumba's story is one of triumph and tragedy, of hope and betrayal. His rise to power was meteoric, but his fall was equally swift and brutal. The forces arrayed against him were formidable, yet he faced them with courage and determination. It's a story that shines a light on the turbulent period of decolonization. The struggle for independence was fraught with challenges, and Lumumba's leadership was a beacon of hope in those tumultuous times. His efforts to unite the Congolese people and forge a new path were met with fierce resistance from both within and outside the country. It also exposes the brutal machinations of Cold War politics. The global powers of the time saw Africa as a battleground for their ideological conflicts, and Lumumba's vision of a neutral, independent Congo was a threat to their interests. His assassination was not just a national tragedy but a global one, highlighting the ruthless nature of geopolitical struggles. More importantly, it's a story that continues to inspire generations of Africans and freedom fighters worldwide. Lumumba's legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of those who continue to fight for justice and equality. His vision of a free and united Africa remains a powerful motivator for activists and leaders across the continent. This essay will delve into the life and legacy of Patrice Lumumba. We will explore the formative experiences that shaped his worldview and the pivotal moments that defined his political career. From his early days as a passionate advocate for independence to his role as a national leader, Lumumba's journey is one of remarkable resilience and vision. It will trace his journey from his humble beginnings to his meteoric rise as the first Prime Minister of the independent Democratic Republic of Congo. His inauguration was a moment of immense pride and hope for the Congolese people, a symbol of their newfound freedom and potential. We will examine the immense challenges he faced, the enemies he made, and the political intrigues that sought to undermine his leadership. Lumumba's tenure was marked by intense opposition, both from colonial powers and internal factions, yet he remained steadfast in his commitment to his vision for Congo, and the unwavering spirit that ultimately led to his assassination. His death was a profound loss for Congo and for the entire African continent. It was a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those who dare to challenge the status quo. Finally, we will explore Lumumba's enduring impact on the struggle for African unity and independence. His vision of a united Africa continues to inspire leaders and movements across the continent. Lumumba's speeches on African unity remain powerful calls to action, resonating with the aspirations of millions. His story is a stark reminder of the human cost of freedom. The memorials dedicated to him are not just tributes to his life, but also reminders of the sacrifices made in the pursuit of justice and equality. It is also a testament to the enduring power of one man's dream for a better future. Lumumba's vision of a free, united, and prosperous Africa continues to inspire hope and determination in the hearts of many. His legacy is a beacon of light, guiding future generations towards a brighter, more just world. Patrice Emery Lumumba was born on the 2nd of July, 1925, in the village of Onalua in the Kasai province of the Belgian Congo. This small village, nestled in the heart of Africa, was a place of humble beginnings. The landscape was dotted with simple huts and the community was tightly knit, bound by shared traditions and a collective way of life. It was here, amidst the lush greenery and the rhythm of village life, that Lumumba's journey began. His childhood was worlds apart from the corridors of power he would later occupy. Growing up in Onalua, Lumumba was surrounded by the natural beauty of the Congo, but also by the stark realities of colonial rule. The village life was simple, yet it was marred by the pervasive presence of Belgian colonial authorities who imposed their will on the local population. Born into the Batetela ethnic group, Lumumba experienced firsthand the injustices and inequalities of Belgian colonial rule. The Batetela, like many other ethnic groups in the Congo, were subjected to harsh treatment and exploitation. Lumumba's early years were marked by a deep awareness of the social and economic disparities that plagued his people. The Belgian Congo, like many African colonies, was a land of contradictions. On one hand, it was rich in natural resources, boasting vast reserves of minerals and fertile land. On the other hand, the indigenous population lived in abject poverty, their lives controlled by a foreign power that reaped the benefits of their labor. Vast natural resources fueled the Belgian economy, while the indigenous population endured forced labor, segregation, and limited access to education. The wealth generated from the Congo's resources rarely benefited the local people. Instead, it was siphoned off to enrich the colonial masters, leaving the Congolese to toil under harsh conditions. Despite the limitations imposed by the colonial system, Lumumba pursued education with a fervent passion. He understood that knowledge was a powerful tool, one that could potentially liberate his people from the shackles of colonialism. His determination to learn was unwavering, and he sought out every opportunity to expand his understanding of the world. He excelled in his studies, displaying a sharp intellect and a thirst for knowledge. His teachers recognized his potential, often remarking on his keen mind and his ability to grasp complex concepts quickly. Lumumba's academic prowess set him apart from his peers, and it was clear that he was destined for greater things. His education, however, was not confined to the classroom. Lumumba was an avid reader, and he spent countless hours poring over books. His hunger for knowledge knew no bounds, and he sought to educate himself on a wide range of subjects, from history and politics to philosophy and literature. Lumumba immersed himself in literature, devouring the works of European Enlightenment thinkers and African anti-colonial writers. The ideas he encountered in these books profoundly influenced his worldview. The Enlightenment ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity resonated deeply with him, as did the writings of African leaders who advocated for independence and self-determination. These books opened his eyes to the broader world. They provided him with a framework to understand the injustices he witnessed daily and offered him a vision of what a free and just society could look like. Lumumba's intellectual journey was not just about acquiring knowledge, it was about finding a way to change the world. They ignited within him a burning desire for social justice and self-determination for his people. The more he read, the more he became convinced that the Congolese people deserved better. He began to see himself as a potential leader, someone who could guide his people towards freedom and equality. Lumumba's political awakening began to take shape. He started to engage with other like-minded individuals, discussing ideas and strategies for achieving independence. These early political gatherings were the seeds of a movement that would eventually challenge the might of the Belgian colonial empire. He witnessed the plight of his fellow Congolese, their struggles fueling his growing determination to challenge the colonial system. The stories of hardship and resistance he heard from his compatriots only strengthened his resolve. Lumumba knew that the fight for freedom would be long and arduous, but he was prepared to dedicate his life to the cause. He understood that education was a powerful tool, a weapon against oppression and a key to unlocking the potential of his people. Lumumba believed that an informed and educated populace was essential for the success of any liberation movement. He envisioned a future where every Congolese child had access to quality education, free from the constraints of colonial rule. The winds of change began to sweep across Africa in the mid-20th century. This was a period marked by a profound transformation, as the continent's people started to rise against the shackles of colonialism. The spirit of liberation was not confined to one region but spread like wildfire, igniting hopes and dreams of freedom in the hearts of millions. The Second World War had weakened the European colonial powers. The devastation wrought by the war left these powers struggling to maintain their grip on their overseas territories. Economically drained and politically unstable, they could no longer suppress the growing demands for independence from their colonies. The war had also exposed the hypocrisy of fighting for freedom in Europe while denying it in Africa. It also ignited a new spirit of anti-colonial sentiment across the continent. The war had shown the African people that the colonial powers were not invincible. Inspired by the principles of self-determination and human rights, they began to organize and mobilize, demanding an end to foreign domination. Protests, strikes and uprisings became common as the call for independence grew louder and more insistent. The Belgian Congo, too, felt this shift. The colony, rich in resources but plagued by exploitation and oppression, became a focal point for the burgeoning independence movement. The Congolese people, who had endured decades of harsh colonial rule, began to see a glimmer of hope. They were inspired by the successes of other African nations, and driven by a desire to reclaim their land and their dignity. The Congolese people, long subjugated under Belgian rule, began to demand their rightful place on the world stage. They organized mass protests and demonstrations, calling for an end to colonial exploitation and the establishment of a free and independent Congo. The streets of major cities like Leopoldville and Stanleyville echoed with the chants of freedom and justice. In this tumultuous period, Patrice Lumumba emerged as a leading voice for Congolese independence. A charismatic and passionate leader, Lumumba quickly gained a following among the Congolese people. His vision of a united and independent Congo resonated deeply with those who had long suffered under colonial rule. Lumumba's rise to prominence was a testament to his unwavering commitment to the cause of freedom. A gifted orator, Lumumba possessed a rare ability to connect with the masses. His speeches, delivered with fervor and conviction, inspired hope and determination in the hearts of his listeners. Lumumba spoke of a future where the Congolese people would be masters of their own destiny, free from the yoke of colonial oppression. His words were a rallying cry for a nation on the brink of liberation. His speeches, infused with passion and eloquence, resonated deeply with the aspirations of the Congolese people. Lumumba's message was one of unity, pride, and self-determination. He called for an end to tribal divisions and urged the people to come together as one nation. His vision of a free and prosperous Congo inspired a generation and laid the groundwork for the country's future. They yearned for freedom, dignity, and control over their own destiny. The Congolese people, inspired by Lumumba's leadership, were ready to take their place among the free nations of the world. The dream of independence was no longer a distant hope, but a tangible reality within their grasp. The spirit of liberation was alive and well in the hearts of the Congolese people. Lumumba's message was clear: the time for colonialism was over, and the future of the Congo belonged to the Congolese people. He spoke of a new era of freedom and self-governance, where the people would have the power to shape their own destiny. Lumumba's vision was one of hope and possibility, a future where the Congo would stand as a proud and independent nation. In 1960, after years of struggle and negotiation, the Belgian Congo finally achieved independence. The long-awaited day of liberation was marked by celebrations and jubilation across the country. The Congolese people, who had fought so hard for their freedom, could now rejoice in their newfound independence. It was a moment of triumph and a testament to the resilience and determination of the Congolese people. The newly formed Democratic Republic of Congo held its first democratic elections. The people, eager to participate in the democratic process, turned out in large numbers to cast their votes. The elections were a symbol of the country's commitment to democracy and self-governance. It was a new beginning for the Congo, a chance to build a future based on the principles of freedom and equality. The charismatic Lumumba, riding a wave of popular support, led his Mouvement National Congolais (MNC) party to victory. His campaign, marked by passionate speeches and a clear vision for the future, resonated with the people. Lumumba's leadership and dedication to the cause of independence earned him the trust and support of the Congolese people. His victory was a reflection of the people's desire for change and their belief in his vision. On June 30, 1960, at the age of 34, Patrice Lumumba became the first Prime Minister of the independent Democratic Republic of Congo. His inauguration was a historic moment not just for the Congo but for the entire African continent. Lumumba's rise to power symbolized the dawn of a new era, one where African nations would no longer be subject to foreign rule. His election was a watershed moment in African history, marking the rise of a new generation of African leaders determined to chart their own course. Lumumba's leadership inspired other African nations to pursue their own paths to independence. His legacy is a reminder of the power of determination and the enduring spirit of freedom that continues to shape the destiny of the African continent.